This is question number 20 of the exam bonus. The question says, which element is oxidized and which element is reduced in the following reactions? State which substance or element is the oxidizing agent and which one is the reducing agent. So we have the equation here, PA4 solid plus 10 HClO aqueous plus 6 H2O liquid produces 4 H3PO4 aqueous plus 10 HCl aqueous. So first we need to find all the oxidation numbers, and we have to memorize those, and there's a table with the numbers on it and rules. One of the rules says that if there's any substance or element that is by itself, like PA4, which is a solid, but PA4 is by itself and with no other elements, so PA4 is going to be 0. So it has the charge of 0. Then we have HClO. We know that oxygen is always -2. There's one exception, but it's usually -2. And hydrogen is +1 with nonmetals. So hydrogen is going to be +1, and every part of the equation has to equal 0. So we have a -2 and a +1, and we need it to equal 0. So chlorine has to be a +1 as well. We have 6 H2O. The coefficients 10, 6, 4, 10 don't matter for the oxidation numbers. They just matter so you have a balanced equation. We're only looking at the subscript numbers. So you can see oxygen right here. We know that it's always -2, and hydrogen with a nonmetal is going to be +1. There's 2 hydrogens, so we're multiplying it by 2 and we get a +2. +2 minus 2 equals 0, so that is balanced. And then we have H3PO4. Oxygen is -2, hydrogen is +1. There are 4 oxygens, so we're going to be multiplying it by 4, and we get -8 for oxygen. There's 3 hydrogens, so multiply it by 3 to get a +3, and we want it to equal 0. So the charge of P must be +5. So we can write +5 for the charge of P. Then we have HCl. Hydrogen is +1 with a nonmetal, so +1. It has to equal 0, so chlorine must be a -1. Now that we have all of our oxidation numbers, we can figure out the question, which is asking which element is oxidized and which element is reduced. There's a little memory trick. Leah the lion says, so a loss of electrons is oxidation and a gain of electrons is a reduction. So we're going to write out oxidized and reduce. So PA4 had initially had an oxidation number of 0, and then over here P has a value of +5. So we know that, sorry, it wasn't P, it was just P. We know that P is the one that's being oxidized because it is the loss of electrons is oxidized. And so P is oxidized. And which one is, because it's gaining, it's going from 0 to 5. So the increase means oxidized, and then which one is being reduced? Cl goes from a +1 to a -1. So which one is reduced? Is Cl. Now it also asks the oxidizing and reducing agents, and for those it's just inverses. So if it's being oxidized, the P is also the reducing agent. And vice versa, if chlorine is being reduced, so it's the oxidizing agent. So now we know that P is oxidized, Cl is reduced, and that means that Cl is also the oxidizing agent and P is the reducing agent. And just so you can see it, P on this side of the equation has 0, and on this side of the equation it has a +5 oxidation number. Cl starts with a +1 and goes to a -1. So you can see how P is oxidized because it's gaining, and Cl is clearly reduced because it goes from +1 to -1.